Functions are self-contained block of code that perform a specific task. Now, in Swift, we use functions to build blocks for clean, reusable, and organized code. If we have a program that we want to use in multiple places in our application, functions are very useful for organizing such a program. Functions can vary from very basic function to a much more robust and complex functions. So here on our screen, I have a function that does addition. So in Swift, we use the keyword func to make functions and then followed by the function name. The parenthesis is a must regardless of whether or not it is taking parameter. And then we have this return type. If we didn't include this return type, I think Swift is just going to automatically infer what we have here. So I think it's not, so this is not inferring, unexpected, not void return. So in this case, we have to specify the return type. I thought I was going to automatically infer it. So in another programming language, if you look at the parameters, see they both have types and both integer types. Now when we invoke this function here, our parameter name we have to use as label here. In another programming language, we may not have to do this, but Swift requires us to label our arguments at the point of invocation of our function. We can also explicitly include labels here for our parameters, but we're going to get into all of that shortly. So let's start from basic function. So we have func like this, and then we have the function name. So this is how we make function. So we have display message. So this function does not take any parameter. So here we can do something like this. We can do print. Hello guys, I am learning function. Okay, so the next thing to do is to invoke this function. So we can do display message like so, and then when we save, since this function is not explicitly returning anything, but we are printing this to our console. So once we invoke it, this is going to fire, and then we should get that print message. So that's like the basic function, basic way of creating a function. There are other ways of creating function, like we got a glimpse in the last example there I erased from our text editor. We could have input parameters and return values. I think of a shopping discount. Say we want to build a function that takes original price of an item and then discount percentage and then returns the final price. So how might we do that? So in any case, when our function takes parameters and return values, that's when our function becomes powerful. So this allows us to pass data into the parameters and then get them back when we return the values. So let's look at an example. If we have a func calculate, should we call that discount? Okay, calculate discount, and then our function is going to take parameters. Let's say price, and then the type is going to be double, and then let's say percentage, and then the type of percentage is going to be double. Now when we create a more is a robust or complex function like this, we have to specify the return type. Now remember we said Swift is a type safe. So since the parameters are double, well, we have to pass the return type here as well. So this is going to be double. That's our return type. And then inside the function body, we can do whatever we want to do. So for instance, we can say let savings equals price multiply by, okay, so let's have a discount. Let's say percentage divided by 100, like so. Now we're going to make use of this local variable later on. So then we can do return price minus savings, like so. So now say the error is gone because we are explicitly returning our value here. So after that we can do, of course we have to figure a way to make use of this function by invoking it somehow. Then we can do let final bill equals let's calculate discount. So now our parameters name have been used as the labels for our function. So here in the price, perhaps we want to pass 150.0. So remember, we're expecting double. And then for the percentage, perhaps we want to pass 20.0 percentage. 20.0, like so. And then we want to print our result. Then we can say print our total. What's it? Our total saving is saving. Let me just, our total bill is final bill, like so. So what we're doing here is I think this is a function that calculate discount. You know, when you get discount, you get a different price point. So for the savings, we have price multiplied by percentage over 100, and then for our price, for this return price minus savings. Well, anyway, you get the idea, the whole idea behind discount. So let's run this and see what we get. Okay, so it's calculated that our total bill is 120.0. Now we can also we can have argument label in our function. So this is a unique feature to Swift function. So we can have argument labels and then parameter names. So let's see how we might do that. I'm not going to use this function. I'm going to use another one. So we can have, for instance, so we do func, say send alert, and then here we can have our label. So we say to, then our parameter name, the type, and then so this is going to message string. Now what is going on here is here I added a label, an argument label. For the second one, I didn't add an argument label. I just used the parameter name. So if we didn't add an argument label, we are going to have to default to using the parameter name as our label, like we have seen in previous examples. Okay. So here we can have our function body, and then we can do print. It send a lot. So what do? Let's say notification send to user, and then we have a message sent as well. Message, like so. Now we have to invoke our function. So here we can do send a lot. See, now instead of using user, which is a parameter name, we can use to. And this argument label is going to capture wherever value we pass as our user value here in our argument. So if I say to so here we can say to Miriam, and then for message we can type a message as your package has arrived, like so. Okay, let's have an exclamation mark there. So I'm going to save this, and I'm going to run this like so. So this is okay. So notification sent to Miriam, say your package has arrived. So we get the message. Now if I had a second label here, say I do MSG, then here instead of message, then I'm going to do MSG. So now I'm using the argument label in both, or argument labels on both for both parameter. So this is still going to do the same as before. Let's see what that does. Okay, so it says notification sent to Miriam, your package has arrived. Now, another thing we might want to do is to say we want to omit the argument label entirely. We can do that as well. So how might we do that? Let's see. Here I could do, for instance, instead of doing to user, I can do underscore. I can do underscore. So when I do underscore, I don't even have to use the parameter name. So I can just do if I do this, does it work? All right. So I don't even have to use the parameter name once I do this underscore. So I'm omitting the label name here, which is allowing me to just set the value of the parameter. So if I save this, let's see what we get. Okay, it's all right. Say notification sent to Miriam. Your package has arrived. Well, I hope we get the idea. What we're trying to do here. Now, uh, another thing we can do is in Swift, functions are first class citizens. What that means is that we can set a function as variable. We can pass function as parameter to another function, and just as we can return function from another function. So maybe I should also say this. We don't have to explicitly write return in our function body if the function is quite short. We're going to look at that now. So let's see that what we might do. Okay, let's look at function as a first class citizen, and then we can just look at when we don't have to use a return in our function as well. So look at this. If we have a func add nums, okay, add numbers. Let's have add numbers, and in here we have a integer, b integer. So for our return type, say integer, and then our body we can have a plus b. See, we didn't use any return, but then we specify our return type here. So that's one. We could also do func multiply number. Let me say nums, like so. Then we can do a int, b int, and then the return type is going to be int, and then for the body we can have a multiplied by b, like so. So in this case, okay, what I'm trying to say is in this case we can just do for instance we can say let result hard equals hard numbers, like so. So we can pass, maybe we want to pass 10, and then here we want to pass 16, I don't know, and then here we can do print result hard, like so. So we'll save this. So this is going to give us the value that was returned from this hard number as a function. So if we run this, okay. So just as we did here, we could have done with this as well. But that's not the interesting part. What I'm trying to demonstrate is we can have function as a first class citizen. So I'm going to try to pass this function to another function now. For instance, we could have func execute operation, like so. And then here I can omit a function argument label, and then I can pass my function here. Let's say operation. So this is going to be a function. It's going to take two parameters of integer type, and then it's going to return an integer type. You can think of this as iota function. And then the second parameter for this function, the label is going to be on, and then the parameter name is x. So this type is int. And then for the third parameter, the label is going to be and. The parameter name is going to be y. The type is going to be int, like so. All right, so here we can have this. And then let's look at this. We're going to have let result. So result is going to be, we want to invoke this function parameter. So remember, the label is underscore, so we don't need to use the label here, or when we eventually invoke this execute operation function. So then we can do operation, and then here we can pass x and y, like so. Good. Then in here, let's print the result of the operation is let's have result, this result, like so. Okay, now since we have printed, we're not explicitly returning anything, so we can just invoke this function here, execute operation here. Good. Now for our first what is it called, for our, this is our first parameter, is expecting a function, and this function takes two parameters of integer types. It's returning an int type. So if you look at here now, see it's highlighted this, this is expecting a function, and then we have in our label names here, and then we have to pass the value here. So this is expecting a function, so we can just use either of these functions. So if I can use for instance add numbers. Now you look at the way add numbers was configured. It takes two parameters, it returns an integer type. So we can just here we can just do add numbers, like so. Add numbers, I don't think we need to do this. Do we need to do this? Okay, and then for this one we can do what do we want to pass there. Maybe we want to pass 10, and then for the value of this maybe we want to pass 5. So this is going to now remember, this function is expecting two parameters. So in this case, we're using this and this as the parameter here. I hope I'm right. So let's look at what we might get. So let's run this. So it's running. I think I've sort of like closed the debug console the other time. Coming, view, terminal, debug. Good. So the result of the operation is 15. So we're using 10 and 5 as our value for our parameters here. Just as we did this, we could also do pass this function here. So we can do multiply nums. So it's expecting two arguments here. So we're not going to use this. We're going to use this instead. So if I save this, then I run, this should be 10 multiplied by 5, and it should give us 50. Okay, so 50, it's running good, it works. Now another thing I want to talk about is default parameter values. This allows us to make our function more flexible by providing default values for the parameter. So I'm just going to use a simple example. Look at this. Okay, I don't want to use this anymore. It's kind of like, so now we can do, for instance, we can do func, let's say format price, like so, And then here, let's have the first parameter. Let's call that, what should we call it? Let's call it amount. And then let's set the type to be double. And then for the second parameter, let's call that, no, let's currency symbol. Currency symbol. And then the type is string. And then for this, we want to set a default parameter. So here we can pass this $sign here. So that's going to be for our symbol. Then for our function body, so don't get it twisted. Functions can have multiple types in their parameters. So you remember this is double and this is string. So we're not restricted to a single type in our parameters. So inside here we can do print. What do we want to print? We can do print. Let's print currency symbol like so, and then we can pass amount here, amount. So when we invoke this function, all right, I don't want to let the cat out of the bag yet, so let's go. Then since we're doing print, we can just invoke this function like so, format price. So remember, we have set the default value for this to be this currency like so. So we just need to set the amount. So if I do, since we're expecting double, if I do 150.25 and I save, then we should get this as our symbol. Okay, let's go. Let's run this. Good. So we get our currency symbol 150.25. Now, just because we have set a default parameter here doesn't mean we cannot override it. In fact, we can override it. So for instance, we can still go ahead and do currency symbol, and then here we can pass another symbol. What should I pass here? I'm going to make this simple. Let's say I just pass N. Who knows? And then I do save. And then this time, N is going to mean Naira in this case. I don't want to bother us by entering Unicode for currency. So here, you just do run. And then it's going to replace this $sign with this new N sign. Good. See? So we get the result here. So I think I'm going to stop here. We've covered pretty much on functions. I'm going to see you guys shortly. Bye-bye.